seems legit.
Hello legitimates, welcome back. Today I decided to do the Batehaven bag. It is like an adorably cute little bag. To purchase the pattern, it is in the description. I'm gonna start saying that if I remember. This one has a drop-in lining, which is gonna freak a lot of you out, but don't stress too much. I stuff it up 3 times in the same spot in this video, so stick around to see what happens and how to fix the problem. But it's got the divider pocket that you guys all keep asking me to do a video on. So this one has a divider pocket, so you can see how to do it. It's got little side bits so your stuff doesn't fall out. It is quite cute. It's got a divider pocket with a zipper, and then the back, has another zipper pocket there, and then this side has like a little phone slip pocket, which I can't show you because I'm on my phone recording this. And we did bag feet because we always do bag feet. And I did a different kind of handle because, I don't know, I felt like it and I thought it looked really cool. And it's got like these extra connectors, which is just fun. So if you'd like to see how to make one part of this bag, please stay tuned. Righty-o. So I'm doing weird stuff today, a little bit. I'm changing up the strap because I felt like it and I think it's going to look really cool. So instead of doing an adjustable strap, I'm just going to have like a normal one size strap, but it's going to have some funky connectors and stuff in it because that's what I wanted. So I'm going to tell you the size of stuff because this is not what comes in the pattern. So this piece is 21.5 inches. I can't remember why I did that, but it is 21.5 inches. And then I have 2 pieces of the vinyl, which are 11 inches. So this is going to be a strap, and these are going to be like the connector parts between it all. Because in my head, this is going to look amazing, and it's just another strap to add to your repertoire of cool stuff to do. Which, if nothing else, I'm here to inspire you to try new things. So I'm going to put double-sided tape down the center of this. Now, with the fabric, I have tucked under the raw edge there and then done like a double fold style strap. So it's got an opening there. And then this is obviously going to be the vinyl parts. So for the vinyl parts, what I want to do is I want to bring both sides into the center. And you really want to make sure that there's absolutely no gap between all of this. You want no gap like that. So you want it right up against each other, and then you want to rub that slightly against the, well, I rub it on the edge of the table to help crease it, to make sure it doesn't shift before I stitch it. But that's just me. So I'm going to rub that on there. And then I'm going to stitch on a size 4 stitch length because I want something nice and long. I'm going to stitch 1/8 of an inch each side of that center join. So I'm going to do 3 stitches, or 2 stitches, 3 holes, then go back into the first one. And that sounds like it's being weird. A little bit. It is being weird. So this was a new bobbin, and I'll show you what it just did. It did nothing. Basically. So that just means that there is a loop somewhere in my bobbin. So if I pull this out, see how there's a loop? That loop is evil. And it's been happening to me a lot today with my sewing. I don't know what's going on. So we do have to pull this out. So the easiest way to do that is to just kind of tug, cut one of these, and then you should just be able to kind of pull it out. Undo the back stitching, and then this just falls away because there's no pressure behind it because it didn't stitch properly. So I'm just slotting that in and it's just falling away. Which, I mean, yay, it's easy to unpick. But what's worse is it started off working and then decided not to. So how very rude. So we're going to unpick this. I didn't even backstitch, so I'm really not sure how that happened. Maybe I went too fast for it. That is also a thing. So it stitched fine up to here. It actually stitched that much totally fine and then decided to break. But I am going to unpick all of it because I want a nice continuous flow of stitches. The hardest bit now is going to be trying to get back into those same stitch holes, which for the most part I should be able to do. As long as I don't change the width of the stitches on my machine, it should work out fine. So I don't use a quick unpick. I don't believe in them. They're not my friend. I have damaged so many garments and bags due to quick unpicks that I refuse to use them now. So if I need something picky, I will use my sewing awl to pull it out. Otherwise, I just use snips. All right, so we're out. Let's try this again. I didn't even fill the bobbin because I thought this might be a problem. So we're gonna go 1, 2, 3, then back to the first one because that avoids me having to backstitch. And we're just gonna go really slowly because apparently the bobbin's too full. So this is a solution. If you have the same problem as me, it's usually because you overfilled your bobbin, but it should be fine probably from now since I've wasted all that thread and done all that sewing. So now I should be able to speed up. I mean, it's no guaranteed. It depends on how too full you made it, but generally speaking, you should be fine. So that is one. It looks lovely. I pretty much got through all the original holes, so you can't see any holes, which worked out lovely. And I've deliberately picked a contrasting thread color because I just felt like it. There's no other reason. I just felt like it. If you're less confident in your bag making skills, choose a thread that's the same color because it will hide any mistakes that you may or may not make. And then as you get more confident, you go into bright, bold colors like I am. So this vinyl is the faux hide in antique brown, they call it. I just like it because it's a nice dark brown. All right, so again, we're gonna come to the start. We're gonna do 3 holes, which is 2 stitches, and then go back to the first hole. And off we go again. And then we're going to backstitch, flip it around. Now I can backstitch here confidently because it's already attached to something. And we've used a lot more bobbin thread now, so it's less likely to misbehave. There is always that chance, but that's fine. So those bits are done. Now I'm going to take this, now before I stitch any of it, I'm going to tuck it under. I'm going to clip it down, and we want from the edge of the fold to the here of the fabric, I'm doing 3/4 of an inch. For anyone that wants to know the exact measurements I'm doing, you don't need too much overhanging, but you do need to make sure that you're actually going to get it, and that's how I'm going to achieve my goals. So making sure that there's no twists, I'm going to fold this side over so that the join is on, because this will be the underneath part. There we go. Again, 3/4 of an inch. And so now I'm going to stitch the whole way around that so it's attached. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3 holes, which is 2 stitches, back through the first one, across, needle down, and then we're going to go down the edge. Move the clips out of your way as you get closer. Needle down and pivot. This is also a good way to use up rectangle rings. If you've got like rectangle rings lying around that you probably won't use anymore, this is a good way to use them up. So, or if, when I sell them, they come in packs of 4. So this bag is actually going to use 4 of them. So that is now joined and fabulous. So that will be the bit that actually sits on your shoulder. And then we can take these, and you want the join side to be on the same join side as the other bit, like this. And we're going to rivet that down. So, to make sure that all my rivets are fantastically even, I will be using my rivet spacing template. Because I like it and I own it, and it's a good thing to use things that you own. Otherwise it's wasteful. And I don't like to be wasteful. So, I'm going to do 1/2 inch from the end because I don't like to do it right on the end. I like a little bit of gap because if the bag ever gets overfilled and it stretches a little bit, it's not going to like snap off the end. 1, 2, 3. Then I'm going to go up to the 4th hole above. And I'm going to mark this end the same, even though we're not attaching it until the end. And then 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I'm going to grab this one. So we go, preferably if it doesn't fall off the table, that helps. 1, and then 1, 2, 3, and 4. Then same with the other end, and then I can punch all the holes at the same time. 1, 2, 3, 4. So these come, for anyone that doesn't know, they have 1 and 1.5 inch strap stuff, and you can do a single rivet or a double rivet. So they have options. And very rarely do I use straps that are different sizes to that because I don't have the other hardware, which is why you only get those ones in a set. If there's another hardware size that you buy a lot of and would like templates of, please let me know. 1. So we're going to punch all the holes now, and then I don't have to worry about it later. And squish. Okay, so then we want our rivet press and some rivets. I like using double capped rivets personally, so that's where it's nice and rounded on both sides, but you can buy single capped. Each to their own, I guess. So I'm going to attach this so that the join are on the same sides. So there's like a right side and a wrong side to the whole strap. Right. So now I've got this. Now if you wanted to, you could add a rivet here for decorative purposes. It wouldn't do much else. But I'm kind of happy with how that strap looks the way it is. So I'm not going to. But again, you are welcome to if you wish. So I'm going to push the cap through both layers, push the post through both layers, then pop the cap on the top, line it up, squish it down, and that is now my strap. Isn't it fabulous? Now, if you wanted to, you don't have to have the same size straps. If you want a shorter strap, you can adjust it accordingly. But I'd like a long shoulder strap. The only thing with these style straps is you can't make them adjustable with how I've done it. I mean, you could a little bit if you wanted a little bit of, if you wanted to use 2 strap adjusters, you could have them like that much adjustable, but I'm okay with this the way it's going to be. So that's my strap. That is not part of the pattern. Let's move on. Let's grab our exterior. Now I have done an embroidery design on here because I'm on a kick at the moment where I want to use lots of embroidery. Whatever. So I'm going to join the fabric to here. Oh, I don't know what size seam allowance this pattern has. It is important to check seam allowances. It can alter a bag. So I'm just going to scroll through and see where it tells me. I do have it set up here, although it's very squishy over this side of the space. All right. It will tell me here, seam allowance is 3/8 of an inch. So that is important to know. So I'm going to join these here. So anyone that doesn't know, 3/8 of an inch is between 1/4 and 1/2. And then I'm going to do the same to these two. You got to make sure that you backstitch because we're joining everything. We love a good backstitch. Then I'm going to chop off this first one. I'm going to extend the stitch length. I'm going to chop off those tails too because they'll annoy me. And then we're going to open this seam up. Now this is especially important if you are on a domestic machine because it's going to help have thinner seams everywhere. So I'm just going to finger press it as best I can. And then we're going to top stitch either side 1/8 of an inch because that's my favorite top stitching amount. But you can do 1/4 inch if you want. Down that side and then swivel around and then come up the other side. The other reason why you'll want to separate that, also trim that off, is because otherwise one side sits way too high and these stitches won't be straight because it goes lopsided because you fall off the steep part. I have done it before, that's how I know. I need you to learn from all the mistakes I've already made. So again, we're gonna go on backstitch. We're making sure that it's flat. So I'm using the rest of my hand to kind of be pins to hold it all down because you can't pin it. Trim off this one. Up the other side. Right, I'm going to show you exactly what I'm talking about. Look at that terrible top stitching. See right here? I fell off the height. So I'm going to unpull that because that just is not okay. But that's exactly what I was talking about. So if you go too fast, right, this is how you fix these problems, people. I've snipped one and I'm going to snip, so I'm going to snip the first and last stitch that I want to get rid of. Like this, and then I am going to use this to pull the stitches out. So I just put it under and then pull like this. Then when I tried to get back on, they went all skewy and closer together. And then when that gets too long, you just trim it off. Because I'm just not okay with that. That was not cool. But that's how you fix it, right? So now all the dodgy stitches are out. And because it's fabric, it won't really be an issue that I veered off. I actually might take out a few more. Just to get a really nice straight line. So I'm going to take all of them as well. Now I'm going to go back in 2 stitches back. And I'm going to hand crank and then go back a stitch. This locks in both the old and the new stitches. And then I can continue. So I'm going to go slower this time since I knew I fell off before. And I'm just going to go all the way to the end because it's only a couple of stitches. And now they're straight. And that's what we care about. Excellent. So when this bag goes together, we're going to have all vinyl one side and all fabric the other, which is a little bit of a gift and a little bit of a curse because of the way we're going to attach our strap connectors. So we have the placement on the piece, which is why I've kept it here. And we're also going to need to iron on our foam. So I'm going to have to pause in a minute, but I want to put, do I want to put them on first or do I want to do it the other way? This is what I'm looking for. They're my 2 strap connectors. So we're going to need that. So let's make the strap connectors. And then I'll decide how I want. Oh, no. No. That's right. I got fancy because this is apparently the thing that I'm doing at the moment. So instead, I made these really cool key fobs. And these are going to be my strap connectors. That's right. This is what happens when you prep too far ahead. You forget all the cool things you've decided to do. So, we need our other 2 rectangle rings. I'm using rectangle rings because my strap will not be removable. I don't feel that it needs to be removable because it's the only straps on there. So I don't need that. Instead, I'm doing this, right? Which is going to look fabulous. So, we want to grab some clips and clip it down. And this is just a tearaway stabilizer, so you can rip that off. It's not doing much. Right, we want the same amount poking out like that. And the reason I'm using the Skull and Pirates thing is because it's the only skull key fob that I had, strangely enough. So we are still going to do this. But I want it on this side, because if I put it on this side, it's going to cover up the embroidered skull I've already done, and I don't want to do that. So we're going to put them on this side, which is opposite of the pattern, but it doesn't matter. So it's going to be this way instead. So what I'm going to do is where the little strap placement section is, I'm going to take my paper scissors, make sure they're your paper scissors, and I'm just going to cut out like part of it. You don't need the whole thing out, but I am just going to kind of do the top section so that I can draw a nice line on where it needs to be. Alright, so I've just cut out like a bit, not the whole lot, because you don't need to, it's excessive. I'd also like to use a Chaco pen, which is a chalk pen. And I'm going to line it up with the edge, not the center, because we just stitched there. And then I'm just going to draw that top line, because that is my plan, and a little bit of the sides to make sure I get it even. And that is my placement line, because I'm doing stuff a bit differently. So my strap connectors don't exactly look like other strap connectors. But this is my thing this week. Well, it was the week that I was designing stuff. The key fobs are great strap connectors if you can be bothered sitting there stitching them. So this is the bit that takes forever. If I had just done a simple rectangle, it would not take half as long as it's about to, but whatever. So I'm going to line that up. If you need to, you can add some double-sided tape right down the center. Just got to move the clips out of the way. And don't unravel the whole thing by letting go, like I just did. Right, so a little bit of double-sided tape will help hold it in place while I stitch it. So we're just going to line that up. So I'm lining up the top of the strap connector like that. And how cute is that going to be? It's just like a little added bonus, really. Now you don't have to do this, obviously. I'm just excessive, but you all know that about me. I actually need to pull this out a little bit more than I thought I did, because I need to be able to stitch across that top. So I'm just going to manually crank past this metal, because I know what I'm like, and I'm likely to wreck something. Now, this might be too much for you, and that's totally okay. I actually need to have slightly less seam allowance so that I can get everywhere I need to. But I'm trying to just go in the outer layer of stitching. That's the big thing. I need to move Scully. Right, so I'm just trying to stitch in the outer stitching that's going on as best I can. It obviously won't be 100% perfect because my stitch length is different, but it's doing pretty good, all things considered. Rotate in. Now, as you can tell, this does take a lot longer than just sewing a rectangle. But sometimes the extra effort really is worth it. Because I think that looks awesome. and it's super custom and unique. So we're going to do the other one now. So this one's on the fabric. Just one clip might be enough. So again, with the double-sided tape so that it doesn't shift while I'm trying to do those millions of curves. And so my straps are just going to be on the opposite side to where they are in the bag, because I should have put this piece on the other piece, but it doesn't matter. It's all going to work out just fine. We all know I can't do normal things anyway. I just want to get past the metal so that I don't, you know, destroy something. There we go. Needle down and the big pivot. And we just try and do as best we can. Pivot in there, and then up, back to the start, and back stitch. Love it. So now we have our strap connectors on. And I mean, it did take a bit longer, but it wasn't crazy amounts more. It looks great. I think it looks great. You don't have to agree, but you can do this with anything. So if you've got like a cool embroidery design, you could do like Pikachu and then a Pokeball or something. I don't know. Right, so I now need to stop and go and iron the interfacing onto the back. So this is my double-sided bag foam, so I'm just going to iron that on. It is small enough to not be in the seam allowance, which means it's more domestic machine friendly, just so you all know. So we're going to do that and come right back. Alrighty. So my interfacing is now ironed on the back. It is cool enough now that I can touch it. You always, once you've ironed it on, you always want to lay it flat. If you lay it like this, it will dry like that and you'll forever have a curve. So we don't want that. But that is now the outside kind of done. Let's move on to the base. So because I've got my embroidered logo onto the base, we are going to put bag feet on, because we all know how much I love bag feet. I'm a little bit obsessed with them. I'm okay with it. Truly am. So I want to go, you don't want to go too far in. So I'm actually going to do, I just make it up per bag. I kind of mentally do a bit of a percentage thing going on. So I want to go there. Go there. So I've gone 1 1/4 in from the long edge and 1 1/2 in from the short edge, because I think that looks nice. That's a nice ratio. But again, you don't have to do it like me. I'm not sure if there's actual feet in the bag pattern, but anytime I do embroidery, you don't want that to sit in muck, because it will soak straight into the bag. So you want the bag feet up to avoid such problems. So, hole punch. We're gonna go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. So I've got my base stabilizer on here, and again the pattern has it within the seam allowance, so that's gonna make that fun and much easier to sew for those on a domestic, or just in general too. If we're totally honest, it will just help sew in general. You never really want your stabilizer all the way to the end, because it means that this edge won't fold nicely. It'll actually be quite tricky. Oops. Click it on. You can always do a 5th one if you don't put your logo on the base like me. You don't have to be like me, it's fine. My theory behind it is people are buying my bag for the awesome print that I've chosen to do. So I'd like my logo on it, but slightly more subtle. So even though it's quite large, it is on the bottom and out of your face. And I like that. Everybody likes in-your-face logos. And that's okay. But the bag feet are now in. Everybody always asks me if I have a special die set for the bag feet. The answer is no, I just use my normal rivet press. But you always have to make sure the dome's on top so that the rubber part on the top part will help prevent any damage to the actual feet. Okay, now I'm pretty sure... Oh, I've cut that wrong. That's what I think. So we're going to take one of our exteriors. I figure I may as well just build the whole exterior while we're here. And I'm going to start clipping it on. Now, I think I have the wrong size zipper here. So instead of worrying about that, I'm just going to put it right sides together. Because I have a sneaking suspicion this has a drop-in lining. I skimmed the instructions. If we're honest, I didn't read them terribly well. But I skimmed over them to see what was going on. And this seems to be it. So, what might be even... Oh, see, I'm 50-50 right now. I'm like, do I split the zip and put the zipper pulls on later? I think I will, because it's going to be easier to attach a corner. So we're going to split the zip. And I can treat it similar to a Baronia bowler bag, and this is how I would do that. So, split the zip, clip it, you're going to use lots of clips because we don't want this to shift. And you do also want to make sure that it is face down. That is pretty important. If you stitch it the other way, you're not going to be able to use your zipper. It's going to be more decorative than anything. Now, I know a lot of people will trim their zip for this corner. I don't trim zips. I've never had good experiences with it. I'm pretty sure they trim it in the pattern. It's just not for me. I have nothing but dramas whenever I trim zips, so I'm going to avoid such things. I'm just going to instead use a whole lot of clips. And then I'm going to trim off the excess because I knew my zip was the wrong size. Like that. Oh, actually, I should probably keep that bit and cut off the same amount so that my zip is even. That's pretty important, actually. So now, for the second side, so I'll just put that one there. For the second side, we can do similar but different. So I can now actually clip each end on and then work my way up, like so. Right, and then I'll make sure that there's no twists, bring it around and down. Again, you need to make sure that the teeth are touching the vinyl, otherwise you're putting your zip on the wrong way. And it is just a little bit important. Now I know it doesn't look like it's going to fit, but just bear with me, because it will. After we do all the tricky corners, it should fit just fine. See, it's already starting to fit better. You're going to make sure that the zip comes all the way to the edge, like we did on the other one. Right, pivot it round. The second side is always a little bit trickier because, I don't know why, but it just usually is. Clip, grab a couple more, just to be on the safe side. Ah, beautiful. Right, so now we're going to stitch this with the normal seam allowance. Because we've got this drop-in lining, I just won't top stitch it. So we're going to stitch it on with the normal 1/4 inch seam allowance, and I can say that because it's always a 1/4 inch when you're sewing on a zip. It's just like an unwritten rule. You can't do bigger. You'll sew over the teeth. It's going a little bit wonky there. Right, we also want to clean up these as we go. You also might find a walking foot handy because of the foam. I'm finding that the foam is like being a little bit gripping, which is making it a little bit more tricky than it should be. And now I can trim off this one because we love chain sewing in this house. So again, slow and steady. And back stitch. And then you want to just check it. It's always good to check. But that looks lovely. I'm quite happy with how that's come out. Alright, so now we're going to take one of our zipper pulls, which I just had to get a bag of because I'm out in my personal stash. So I stole this out of my selling stash. Right, and then we want to put the zip all the way on. So we're going to go all the way up and over and then take it off at the other side. So it doesn't matter which side you do. It's all the same in this particular moment. So long as the zip goes on. Alright, so I'm going to go up. All of that seam allowance is in the way because we haven't tacked it down yet, but we haven't made the lining, so it's fine. We'll get there. It's just going to take a minute. So we need to join this. And you need to move the seam allowance out of the way of the zipper. Alright. You could tape it down, I suppose. We could do that. Oh, hold on. I've caught something in the zip again. Yep. And again. This is not the funnest thing I've ever done. But we need the zip to do that, right? So now that I've gone all the way around, the zip is on. So the zip is together. This is what we wanted. So now the zip has two zipper pulls. So we're going to put one on from each end. So you just want to crack it a little bit, put the zip on a little bit, and then we're going to stitch it so it can't come undone. Because the next thing that we're going to do is probably going to want to come undone. And we don't want that. So we get it as even as we can. Oops. See, I already ripped it off. This is why we're going to stitch it, by the way. This kind of a shaped bag, you need to seal that zip together or it will just pop like it just did, which was a bit rude. Right, so I'm going to just put it kind of up a couple of inches, and then I'm going to squish the bag down like this, and I'm going to stitch over and over that zip in a basting kind of sense, so that now the zip can't either come undone or come off. It's within the seam allowance, so I'm not worried about seeing those stitches, but by doing that, the zip can't go anywhere. Then you just want to clean up all those tails, because that's a bit much. Right, one side done. We are going to repeat with the other side. And then we can bring the zippers all the way up if we want to. Then we're going to do the other side. So half on, feed the other half. Some people have trouble with this, and you may or may not want to use a zipper jig, even if you've made one out of a fork, whatever's working for you. But again, we're going to put it up out of the way, then I'm going to squish the bag down, and stitch back and forth over the zip several times to make sure that it is locked in place. Right, I know that seems excessive and a lot, but trust me when I say you don't want this to come apart. Alrighty? Boom. Bring this up and down, and then turn it inside out. Feels like the hokey pokey right now, but anyway. Right. We are happy. Now we can install our base, since this is a drop-in thing. So, the center point is where the two fabrics meet. And I've already found my center point because of when I was putting on my logo. So I don't need to do that a second time. But I'm sure you've all seen me do it like a million times in videos. So it's cool. So I've done the straight edge. Now I'm going to pull this and come and do the opposite straight edge. Then this will be the shell of the bag. Now, if you really struggle with putting in bases, my suggestion would be stitch that, stitch the straight edge, and then worry about the ends. Because straight is straight. It can't really go anywhere. We're going to use a lot of clips around this curve because it's a tight little bag. And you want everything to just go smoothly. Now I'm using a size 5 zipper. If you're using a smaller zipper, it might turn out differently with the seam allowance. Maybe a little bit more squishy, I'm not sure. I don't use size 3 very often. I know a lot of people like to use size 3 for zipper pockets, and that's totally a good idea. It's just, I don't have room to store that, as well as size 5 and everything else in my room. Right, lots and lots of clips. It is now all clipped down. So now we just need to sew the whole way around. So I'm going to take this clip out because it's the one that's got the most space around it, which is a good thing. And then we're going to stitch the base on. I'm going to stitch and I'm going to back stitch. We're going to move slowly. I'm going to stop, pick up the clips. We're nearly back to the start. Sorry, I was actually concentrating there, which is why I stopped talking. It happens occasionally. Now, before we go turning it through, we just want to check, make sure that everywhere is attached and good. We went over the zip, we don't have any stitches showing, and you can do that by just looking into the bag, so it's no big deal. And again, we're going to trim off some of this, like I always do. So that the base will sit in nicer, because it's drop-in lining. Gotta love them. Right. Trimming off the excess. I always like to use the back part of my scissors for this. I find I have more hand strength doing it that way. But that is now rubbish. And now we can turn the bag, the right side's out. Could have also done piping around the edge. That would look cool, but I've only just thought of it. So, too late. But, fabulous. So that's the outside of the bag. And if nobody knew any otherwise, you could just zip it up and be done. But we are obviously going to do more, because we still have the drop-in lining to do. So, let's put that aside and move on to all of our interior pieces. Now, this one is the main body. So this is the awesome fabric that came from the UK. It perfectly, I had just the right amount left over for this bag. So we based the bag on this fabric. because I wanted to use it and it's fabulous. So we need one of these and we need our, no, not that one. Where's my zipper pocket? Zipper pocket, here we go. And zipper pocket, zipper pocket. Okay, so this is also a zipper pocket. So that's our middle zipper pocket. That's fine, I can deal with that. So we're going to take one of our main pieces and then we're going to take the pocket facing, zipper pocket A and zipper pocket B. We're going to use all of those to create the next zipper pocket. I seem to be saying that a lot, but anyway. So what we want to do is we want to grab this because it's easy. So this is my 5-inch zipper template. So I'm just going to place that over as best in the middle as I can. And draw, whoops, the zipper pocket. Now I don't have interfacing on my zipper pockets very often, and this time is no exception. So I have no interfacing on the zipper pocket right now. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to line this up, and you might want to find the center. We're going to find the center of stuff now because it's going to be quicker and easier than doing it later once there's like a million things attached. So center, center, just do it now. It'll make it easier. Then you can fold this in half to find the center if you want, which is there. Line it up. Got to remember that there's a seam allowance, and that's where we're going to put it. So I'm going to stitch the long edges of this zipper pocket. Stitch, back stitch. And back stitch. Flip her over to the other side. Now, I might find that there's a bit of puckering going on with this. That is because this needle is too thick to be sewing two simple pieces of fabric together. The thicker needles are designed for like the thicker stuff. So if you're finding that that's what's happening, that's what the problem is. If it's making ladders or if it's puckering up while you're sewing, your needle is too big. So I am now going to pinch this, make a slit in the center, and then we're going to come close to the end and then triangle out those ends. Now I'm going to need to iron this. We're going to have to hit pause again. Sorry guys. Because it's all fabric, it's not waterproof canvas, so I'm going to have issues getting a nice crisp line. That's okay. I'll just have to hit pause. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to iron that up like this, and then iron this down like this, and then just kind of shove the iron at those sides to get it all the way through, and then turn it through, and then iron it flat, so that you can't see any of this. Now, it's not working now because it needs an iron, it's fabric, but that is what I'm gonna go and do, and then we can come back and continue. We are all ironed, so now we need a zipper and a zipper pull, obviously. Crack the zipper and put the zipper pull on. So we want to do that now rather than later. Like so. And then I'm going to lay this over the top with the zipper closing in the direction that I want it to close, which is this way. Move, Scully. So then I'm going to start in front of the zip. I'm going to make sure it's lined up nice and evenly between the space. Yep, that is not stitching because I didn't have a big enough tail. It's one of those days today, I tell you. Just not winning. Alright, line it all up and off we go. Needle down, pivot. We're going to come up to nearly the zipper with your needle down, lift up your presser foot, zip it shut, continue lining it up, across the end, and backstitch. Trim those tails. Now we have this. Your zipper is on and we have this little bit. So we want to take piece B, which is the bigger one, and attach it to the top of your little accent. What's it called? I don't know. Lost the word now. The bit we just sewed. Facing. That's the word I wanted. Right. So you want to put the big one at the top. And then we're going to put the little one at the bottom. Like this. You just want to sew it to the facing and not the whole everything else. Right. With a back stitch. Always a back stitch. And trim off the tails so that they're out of your way and throw them in the bin. So then when you lift this up, what should happen is that the two pockets will line up at the bottom. So I'm going to pull the side across and then I'm just going to stitch all the way around. So we're going to start at the top, over, needle down, lift it back and pivot. Make sure it's evenly lined up at the bottom. Needle down, pivot, and we just keep folding the bits out of the way as we need to. Over the top and back stitch and trim that tail. And there is your zipper pocket, completely done. Ta-da! We don't need to leave a space because we're not doing that. That's why. We're not turning the bag through, it's drop lining. So now we're up to the next part. So that's my other wall. This one I need to read the instructions because I wasn't paying attention when I skimmed it. And I think I get what's going on, but just also not necessarily 100%. Now I can show you these pattern pieces because they don't have measurements, which is fantastic. Now these are the zipper tabs, so we're going to need them for this. And these are the welts, right. So this is everything left. And we'll need a zipper pull, I do know that much, for our zipper. Oops, there we go. Right. So, the idea is retrieve your slip pocket piece, which is this one. Right, slip pocket piece, check. Let me drag the instructions closer because I moved it when I went to iron things. Fold in half right sides together. So we're going to fold it down like this. And again, your machine might have some issues doing this, so for that I do apologize. So we're going to stitch down and then in, and you need to leave a little bit of a gap at the bottom. This will be to turn it in the right way. Right. When doing these types of pockets, I always like to start up the top here and then work my way down. If you are using a non-directional fabric, this just means, if you're using a directional fabric, this just means that the inside of your pocket will be upside down. It's not the worst thing ever. Now I am just going to take some scissors and trim off the corner excess so that we get a nice pointy edge and it's not too rounded. You just want to chop off the extra bits like that. Done. So I'm just going to push that through. Now again, I haven't put interfacing on this because it's such a little bag. I didn't want to have too much interfacing because then it would make it quite heavy for an empty bag. And some things you can skimp on with the interfacing. It wasn't a cost thing, it was just about the weight of the bag. Alright, so I'm poking out the corners with my fingernails. You can use whatever you want to poke out those corners, to be honest. And then we're just going to pull that tight so that that lines up evenly, and then I'm just going to finger press that down. Alright, trim corners, turn it through, press seam allowance inwards, which I've just done, top stitch, folded edge only. So up here. Okay, we can do that. So we're ignoring that gap for now, apparently, which is fine. And top stitching, I always do it at 1/8 of an inch, but again, if you're new to sewing, you can do 1/4 of an inch. It won't be that much different, but it'll be easier to sew. So that is now our slip pocket. Draw a line down the center. So we're going to need something to draw a line with. So we need a ruler and an erasable pen or a chalk pencil or whatever you've got going on. Alright, so I just need to know how big it was so that I can find the center, draw a line there, and then draw a line in from the edge like so. Fold each side under. Wait, what? Draw a line down each side. Fold each side under on each drawn line. Oh, okay, now I get it. I know what I'm talking about. Turn it down like this and stitch it. That makes sense. I was just reading it wrong. Must be nearly lunchtime. My brain can tell when food is required. Fold that down and then fold on the other line like so. Back stitch and go, and back stitch. Boom. Okay, done. Option also a cloth label, we're not doing that. Position slip pocket centrally on your other lining. So we need our lining piece, and then we're gonna fold it in half to find the center. We're gonna do top and bottom because we'll need the top later anyway, and it will be easier before we start sewing things onto it. It should just be a new standard practice to find the center of all your pieces. Or your main pieces at least. So that's gonna go there. Stitch each pocket. Okay. Easy peasy. So, the best way to do this, lay it down flat, and then just take your pen or your marking pencil or whatever and just draw next to it, because that is the edge. And that is the easiest way to do that. Don't even need the ruler. Probably also didn't need that center line, but whatever. Help me center the thing. And I can always iron it away in a minute. So we're just gonna line this up there and there. And I'm gonna stitch down like so. Pull it away. Trim off all the tails. If you do this as you go, you don't have that nightmare at the end of the bag when you're going around snipping everything. It will also make your work look neater as you go, and you will be none the wiser. Good? If I left all of these, it would look like a really messy bag as you went. Alright, so now I'm just going to smooth them down. I'm going to top stitch that down so it's flat. Like so. And then you can probably iron that away. And you can also iron this so it's sitting flatter. You can get rid of that line in the middle now. mark the center of the base, which is this one. So I'm just going to fold it in half and mark the center here and here, and fold it this way and do there. Whoops. And there. Like that. So now I have 4 central marks. What are we doing now? All right. Then we have to mark each side of that. There. Alright, so that's where the zipper's going to live. Fold the lining. Okay, so we're going to start attaching the lining to the base. So we're going to start at the center points. And then we'll be folding back apart. I see where we're going with this. Very clever. Very clever. So we're clipping this on. We're going around the corner. And then when we get to here, we need to fold this back and then stop it at the marks we just drew. Like that. Yes, very clever indeed. Right, so we've folded it back at the lines that we just drew. So you could do it now, really. Fold it back at, not the center point, but where the zip, so that's going to be where the zipper sits. So we fold it back and clip it there so that there is no space. Like that. So that's one half. And then we're going to do the other half. So you can even start at the edge if you want to. So fold it back and clip it down. So there's this very deliberate gap going on. Then you can come and do the center point here, like this, and then work your way along the flat point back towards the curve. Especially if you struggle with curves, that's a really good way to get that done. Ta-da! Fold it back, clip it down. Lots of clips. So it's going to feel very heavy with clips, but just, it'll be fine. Right. So now we have this going on. So I'm now going to stitch, I assume I'm stitching the whole way around, or maybe I'm just not doing those little bits. Yeah, that makes sense. Right, so I'm going to start here with my seam allowance. We're going to bring Scully back so I can put them all away. So we're going to stitch and start on that folded bit of this piece here. And then we're going to move around and clean up the clips as we go. And around, and we're going to stop when we get to the end of that. And then I'm going to do a little jump stitch over to the other side. So we're going to lift it up, pull it, needle down first, and then capture everything, and then we back stitch. So I will go, oh, and I just ran out of bobbin thread. What a crappy spot to run out. Basically, I tied down my back stitching when I jumped over, and then I went out. All right, so we need to do, I'm going to trim that just so it's easier. I'm going to do another bobbin, hopefully not so full that it gives me grief, and then we can continue. Right, bobbin is all fixed. I also had a quick read of the pattern, and I think I understand what's going on for the rest of the bag. If not, I can always refer to the pattern because I've left it open just in case. You just never know. Right, so we're stitching around like so, and back stitching. And then I'm just going to find all the tails I can and trim them all off. There's probably a few now. Okay, not so many. So now we've got this. So the base is attached. There's a little bit of a gap thing going on here, but don't worry about that because that will just be pressed down like that and you won't see it. So don't worry about that. We're going on to our middle pocket. That's what we're doing. So you should have two big rectangles and your last zip and your zipper pull. So I'm going to crack the zip and put the zipper pull on. And these are going to be the ends of the zippers. So your zipper tabs. You could also, if you wanted to, use vinyl and you would just fold the vinyl in half. These have been double folded so that the raw edges are in the middle. So it comes out like this, then they go into the center, and then you fold it in half again. So it's a double fold. It's like making bias tape, except you don't have to cut it on the bias. So I'm just going to slot this over and top stitch. They're a bit longer than necessary, so don't stress about that. We can cut it off if we need to. Oh, and that one's got a cute little pink skull, and I definitely want that on there, so I'm going to adjust it so that that's going to happen, because that's fabulous. And the other side, it actually came out blank, so we didn't want that. Right. It's on. I'm just going to trim off that excess. You'll notice I didn't backstitch. It's because I was about to trim it off anyway. Right. Like that. One side. Oh, it's got a white skull, but you really can't tell. That's right. Zipper, tab assembled. So now we're going to take this, and it says to fold it wrong sides together. And then it wants you to tuck under the raw edge on both. Although, I reckon I could do it a different way. Just snowballing an idea here. Right side's up. Right side's down. And I'm just going to stitch all the way across. I think this is going to work out. Works out in my head, so we're going to see. Worst case scenario is I will take all of this out of the video. I have been known to be wrong. Right, so that's one side. Then, theoretically, we can just do this and this. And then once we stitch that, you turn it right sides out and it's all going to work and it's just quicker. So, I'm going to take this side and fold it up like this. Centering that. So this is a little bit longer than the zipper tab and that's what it's meant to be. So don't freak out. You won't see that bit anyway. We're going to tuck it in somewhere. So don't stress about that. And then we're going to bring this side up because that is the exterior. We're just going to add it in to our clips. This might be the way the pattern's written. I'm not sure. But I think that this is going to work out just fine. So we're going to stitch. We're going to back stitch. We're going to go along like that. Trim off those tails always. And then just push this through and voila, you now have a lining. So if you zip this open, your lining is fabulous and the exterior is fabulous and nothing really went wrong. I like it. Right, so now I'm gonna hold these and I'm just gonna baste that together so it sits nice and flat because we're gonna hide this in a second anyway. But I just wanna make sure it's all gonna hold together. The pattern does put some like interfacing, some thick, stiff interfacing inside here, but I'm not doing that because I think it's going to be just fine. I don't want this middle pocket too stiff. That's just me. Right. Trim it, throw all of that in the bin. And then I am just going to get some scissors because my fabric's frayed a little bit and I just want to take that off. It's unnecessary to be there, so it can go just like that. And in the bin. Voila! That is now our beautiful center pocket. So now we're going to take our last piece, which are our welts. So they're like tall, skinny bits. And again, this really works well if you've got non-directional fabric. And then we're just going to right sides together and do what we did before. So we're going to stitch down and leave a little gap at the bottom. We're going to do that to both of these. Like this. I'm going to put all of those bits aside. So I like to start from the fold and work my way down. Again, that's just my personal option. You don't have to do what I do. In fact, nobody has to do what I do. I'm just going to jump across because I can. Up. Grab the next one. Chain stitch it. That's why I did it this way, so I can chain stitch. Because I just love chain stitching. Make a big jump. You don't have to make the gap too big, but don't make it so small that you're going to spend 10 minutes trying to turn it through. Also not worth it. Make sure you back stitch at the end. I'm going to trim off there, and then I'm going to cut this jump stitch on both sides so that it stops pulling at my fabric. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I can separate them. Probably could have done it earlier, but whatever. Then again, I'm going to grab some scissors and just trim off the excess at the corners so that we get nice pointy corners, because I like pointy corners. Trim it all off, and then we're going to turn them through. In the bin, through the gap. Now, because I've left such a little hole, what helps me is I grab this and then get my thighs to hold it steady. And then I can just push this through and it will turn out my pocket. And I find that a bit quicker. You're welcome to just do it by hand. Depends on how big of a gap you left, really. But I find this easier. So I just open it, fold one edge over, and then just wiggle or push, and we're done. Then I just use my fingernails to really push out those pointy corners. It's a perk of having fake nails. This is why I get them, for sewing purposes. Because they are definitely more of a hindrance than a help while horse riding, I'll tell you that right now. Now I'm just going to rub that on the edge of the table, and it's like ironing without having to get up and use the iron. 1, 2. Done. Right, so next up, do I have to top stitch that shut? I imagine I do. Let's just top stitch it shut, because I feel like it's a necessity. And the other one as well. Like so. Trim, 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 and then it says to press these in half. So I'm just going to do that, and instead of getting an iron, again, I'm just going to rub it on the edge of the table, and it creates a nice little crease line for me without having to get up. Ta-da! So now I've got our crease line. So now we're going to take our middle pocket, and do we line it up at the top or the bottom? Or in the middle? Probably in the middle, I would guess. Oh no, along the top. So this crease goes right there, like that. And then that, when we top stitch it down is going to both hide that raw edge at the end, like so, as well as create our little bit for our middle center pocket. So I am just going to clip this to make sure that it stays all the way at the crease, because it would really suck if it moved. Right, like that. And then we're going to grab the other one and do the same thing. Lines up. I'm going to make sure there's no fluffy bits. Line it up right there. Clip it. Fold it over. Add some clips. Okay. So I've done that. And then we are going to sew all the way down. Or up, depending on which way you're holding it, I suppose. And it says use a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So that's really going to grab everything there. And the only reason I'm telling you that is because usually I stitch with 1/8 of an inch and it doesn't say to do that. So I feel like you should know that, because if you're just used to me saying top stitch, you would automatically assume 1/8 of an inch. And I'd hate for you to wreck your pattern. Ta-da! And so now, if you look in here, no raw edges anywhere to be seen. None at the top, none at the sides. Would you look at that? Love it. All right, retrieve your lining pieces. And we have to go to the iron now. And we need to come and turn all of these back and press it down. Now this could be a bit tricky. If you think you're going to struggle, especially on the corners, my suggestion would be double-sided tape. But we'll see. So I need to go and press this down all the way around the bag to hold it back and in place. And then we can come and do these bits. And then finish up the bag. And I'm also going to iron away my little line there. I know you can see it now, but it won't be there for much longer. So this is going to take a lot of ironing, so I'm going to turn this off. This one's fine, so it can stay here, but I'm going to go and I'm going to iron back all of this edge because it's a drop-in lining, and to iron it in place will be key. So I'll be back after that is done. We're all ironed. It's looking lovely. Now, we need to insert these. So we need to go, we need a ruler for a start. I'm going to use 2 rulers because it's going to make my life easier. So to go down from the top there, and there. So that's where that needs to sit, but in a straight line, even though that's curved. So I need to stitch that to here. Don't know why I'm standing up. Guess I just felt like it. I also like to get over my project sometimes. It makes it easier to see what's going on. So I'm gonna turn my machine on is what I'm gonna do. Then I'm gonna stitch and back stitch. And that sounds like a big knot. Can you hear that? I can hear that. It is a big knot. You need to chop that knot off, or when I go to try and stitch it again in a minute, it's gonna give me grief. That was just very rude. It's also unwound this and made it go weird. So I need to fix it, because it can't stay like that. There we go. So sometimes, depending on how much you've got out, sometimes I will actually rewind this with the machine. But there's not that much, so we'll be right. But no, sometimes it gets too much and misbehaves. And you do have to wind it back up. Because you want it to be firm on your bobbin. If it's loose like it was, it's just going to give me grief. So I'm going to grab this, do 1 full rotation, and that will bring up my bobbin thread. Like that. And it moved. Shocker. So I'm going to get my ruler, make sure it's all good. So it goes to there. So I'm going to start with reversing and then I'll go forward. Sometimes that helps my machine when it wants to misbehave. So back stitching for a long way before you go forward will sometimes make your machine happy. It also sometimes won't, so I'm sorry if it doesn't work out for you. So again, we need to line it up. Another thing that I could do is just put a mark with an erasable something there and there. And I can do that on this end too. There and there. Yoink. There and there. So they're my corner points. I could draw the line all the way down, but I'm confident enough that I'll be able to do it. If you are not confident enough, draw your line all the way down, and then you can just line this up on your line, like so. Because you've got to remember that this is heading outwards. Down and backstitch. Pull it out, trim it off, trim the tails as you go. That way I don't have to come back later. And so then we're going to grab this one and bring it up to here like that. Backstitch. Trim the tails off. Push them into the bin, and then we're going to do the other side. So it's starting to look a little bit kind of funky monkey now, but don't freak out, it's going to be fine. Down and backstitch. And trim those tails again so that they're out of the way. Then all we have to do, I'm pretty sure, is stick it in. So if this is the front, like this, I also put both my zippers in the same direction. I didn't actually check that. That was a fluke, or it was subconscious. It could go either way at this point. But I'm going to slot it in like this. So when I'm looking at the front of the bag and I open it, the zips are all closing to the left. That's just what I want. Now, here's the tricky bit. So we've got to find our center point. Make sure that that's tucked down. And then I need to clip it together like that. So we're trying to push everything down and out of the way like this. Now, I'm sorry, I'm doing that in my lap. Now, I'm starting to think that my best bet will be to do this on the cylinder arm machine. So for those on a domestic machine, this is your lucky day. You're going to have less of a hard time than people with a flatbed, because you can just stick your machine up on some big books and then treat it like a flatbed. The other option here will be to maneuver it, but I don't love my chances in that. And I'm thinking I would much prefer to use my cylinder arm. That's why I have all these things. Because I want to top stitch it from the outside to make sure that I'm getting it all correctly. And the best way to know how to do that would be on the cylinder arm. You also want to unzip it all the way, because we're going to want to try and get as close to down here as possible. So another thing that you could do to make this a bit easier for yourself is using double-sided tape. You could tape the lining down out of the way. That will help. I promise that will help. I don't know if you can see what I'm doing right now, but I'm pushing the seam allowance down, and then I'm lining up that lining, just covering the inner tape, and then I'm clipping it down with some Wonder Clips. Well, I say some, I mean a lot. We are using a lot of Wonder Clips for this because that's the best way to do a lining. The other option is you could tape down this, then put another piece of tape and tape on your lining. Or you could use glue and then wait for it to dry, and then it'll be much easier to top stitch. But since I am not gluing a lot anymore, we'll be doing it this way. But all in all, that actually didn't go too badly. It's all in. I've used a lot of clips, but look at that. It's lined up lovely. Now I need to do the other half. So again, I want to start down the bottom here, lining it all up with the zipper. Making it face outwards. All the clips are facing the lining, the exterior, not the lining. They're facing away from the lining. And I'm working up towards the corner, like we did with the zipper. So we start in the middle and work out, and then bottom and up, because we like to do the straight bits first. And I'm not sure if you can see, but I am trying to make it so that you can. Right, so we're nearly up to that curve. It's getting a little bit tricky. Tuck under the curve. And then add a lot of clips. 1 and 2 and 3. So that is one half done. So I'm thinking I might stitch that one half and then we'll attack the other side, because that way all of the clips aren't in my way and one side's looser and going to be easy. So I am actually going to go and change to my cylinder arm. I understand that not all of you have this option, but if you are on a domestic, get some nice big thick books like some atlases and encyclopedias, lift your machine up and it will work in a similar fashion. So let's do that. Let's get all up and close and personal with what we're doing. So I want to start here. And the best way to start here is you want to get the bag all the way in, move, and unfortunately the zipper has to be open to be able to get this far, and then I'm going to put my foot down and pull off literally just one clip. So now I want to go 3 stitches, and then we're going to go back in that first hole, because you want to be able to get as close to down here as possible. Now my other machine can't get this close. I'll tell you that right now. And we're going to go very slowly, pulling off these clips. Right. Get about 3 or 4 stitches and then you pull off a clip. You'll notice that I am not trying to do this as a flow. The reason is because I don't want to knock my underneath out of the stitching range. It's very important that we catch the inside. So we're going very slowly. Now this side's going to be easier than the other side because the lining's just kind of floppy on the other side. But that's why we're doing it one side at a time, to make it a little bit easy. Lots of people hate dropping line-ins, and while I understand why, I promise you it is so much easier now to have this machine. I don't hate them anymore. So again, I have used a lot of clips, as you can't see actually, because I keep pushing them out of the way, because I thought it would be more exciting to look here. But basically what you want to make sure is the moving arm is away from the zipper. So if you had it the other way, you'd start the other way. Whichever way is going to work better for you, or you may have to change your feet over. But if you've got a walking foot part, have it away from the zipper edge. Right, so domestic machines are going to struggle to get into this very, very corner. That's what I used to find. This one should get there though. Right, and then I just need to stitch the last few stitches, like that. Now let's see how I went, because I haven't done a drop-in lining in a very long time. And I'm curious to see how I went. I missed a bit, right up here. I thought it was weird. So, what have we done? What have we got to do? I need to unpick this corner because I missed. Can't win them all. That kind of goes back in there. Funnily enough, it wasn't the ends that I missed, it was this curve. So I'm going to go back through the same holes. I'm just going to make sure that everything is where it needs to be. So I kind of fell off the wagon there. So I'm going to chop that one as well so that I can readjust and do it again. Probably relax my foot there. So I'm just slowly digging out the stitches. Digging's probably the wrong word, but you know. Right? Because we want to go back through these same holes, but we just want to make sure that everything's actually tucked under. So it must have hit on the curve. It must have like knocked something, which is why it's not under there, because realistically that should have grabbed everything. Looking at it from here. So it wasn't that my stitches on the outside were wonky, it's just that I've knocked it so that it didn't work. So another thing you can do is pull on this and it'll lift up 1 or 2 stitches, and then you can just kind of pull it through. Trim off that bit. And then, so again, we're going to tuck it under, and we're just going to do this corner again. So you want to tuck it all the way under, like this. And then clip it, and I'm going to put the clips even closer together. So they're basically going to be touching because clearly I had an issue. So I want the clips basically touching each other to make sure that all of that is going to be tucked in where I want it. And there is nothing wrong with using 1,000,000 clips. That's why we have so many. That's why we buy them in packs of 100, people, so that we can use all 100 when necessary. So that is now a lot of clips, but it's held in place. So let's do that again. I'm going to start a couple of stitches back stitch. And then we're going to try and go back through those original stitch holes. And you'll notice we'll get even less stitches in before we have to pull off a clip. Let's see how we went. Pull it up and off and trim. Better, but I still missed a bit. I don't even know how I missed that. Doesn't make sense. That's all right. I will deal with that in a minute. Let's go to the other side. Trim off that tail. Check we got into the bottom, which we did, but it's always good to check. And then I'm going to trim off that tail that's in the way. Do you want to trim off the tails now? Alright, I'm going to deal with that other corner in a minute. I'm going to come up with a solution while I'm doing this side. So again, we're going to line this up all the way down there and add a clip. This is why it's good to have 2 zippers. Not 2 zippers. No, yes, 2 zippers. If you've got 2 zipper pulls on this, you can get into both sides quite easily. I'm using lots of clips. I'm probably going to use more this time than last time so that I don't have the moving problem again. So I'm trying to clip it right at the stitching that you can see on the zipper, because then we're going to stitch just a little bit down from that. And that's how I'm trying to work it out. So now I'm going to come to the center and do the center point and work my way out towards the first corner that I'm clipping together. Right? So here's the tricky corner bit. Line it all up, lots and lots of clips. You can get larger wonder clips and things. That might also be helpful in this particular instance if you have them. I do not. So I will just be keeping on doing the same thing here with lots of small clips. But you can get longer clips. But that's how many clips I'm using. They're basically touching. That is the downside to drop-in linings, I guess. So the other option, apart from clips, you could also add some wonder tape, so like double-sided tape to hold all this together if you needed. That would also potentially help you. So again, I'm moving up the edge. It is on a slant, but it is also a straight edge, so it does make it much easier. And then I'm going to go out towards the corner like this. And if you iron it all well, oh look, I dropped something. Shocker. Can't do a video without dropping a clip, I swear. It's a struggle of mine. So I'm just tucking all of that in to make sure that it's going to capture. And because of last time, I'm going to make all the clips touch themselves. Like that. And look at how many clips we've got. Now, hopefully, I'm going to catch everything this round. But, you know, it might not work out the way I hoped. So, needle up, threads down and behind. You are meant to hold them, but I don't have that many hands, so we're probably not going to. So I'm going to come up and over like this so that I'm on the right side of the bag. Take off the first clip. We're going to stitch and we're going to back stitch. And off we go. Nice and slow, nice and close to the zipper. Slow and steady. If you zoom through this, you're going to have disasters happen. Which is obviously not what we want right now. This scully's a bit full. I've run out of hands and space. Right, next corner, last corner, technically. If all's gone to plan. We caught the other side, so that's exciting. Because I'm going slow but steady, I can kind of take the clips off as I go. But don't push your luck. If you're not feeling it, just stop. No point in wrecking the bag because you wanted to save a little bit of time. So then we're going to go back stitch and pull it out. Let's see how I went that time. Oh, that one worked much better. So it's just this corner I have to come back and deal with, but that's right. The inside's looking lovely. I've got our little side bits. I just have to deal with this corner. Alright, so I'm going to unpick it for a third time because it will drive me nuts if it's not in. I got more of it this time, but still. Let's unpick it a third time and see if I can't make it fabulous. What I really want right now is my sew-all. So I'm going to get my sew-all because that's going to help me get the stitches out better. So I can show you what happened. See how I've just missed? See that? That's not okay. So I just have to pick the threads again And this is the best way to kind of dig in and pull them out. Can't believe I missed twice, but you know, these things happen. Not one to lie to you guys. So you can just see, people make mistakes. Drop-in linings can be tricky. But the other side I did fine, so, you know. Maybe gluing is the way to go. Glue it, let it dry, and then you can just zip over the top of it. Right. Third time really is the charm. So I'm going to tuck that under. I'm going to tuck that. Clip. Tuck. Clip. Lots of clips. I don't want to miss a third time. If possible. Tuck it all in, clip it all down. Okay. Third time's the charm, right? Tucked it all, clipped it all, let's do it. Next time I make this bag, we might hack it. Oh, now I lost my thread. We might hack it so that we don't have a drop-in lining. Just this one corner has apparently decided to give me grief. If this didn't work, I'm at a loss and I need to walk away. Ah, but we're fine because it worked. Yay! See, third time's the charm sometimes. It's fine. Trim off all those tails. Attempt to throw them in the bin. Well, we got it. So we're good. So, zip it up. Oh, see those tails? Not cool. Trim off the tails from where we started. Now on domestics, you won't be able to get as far in, but what I used to do with drop-ins is I just hand stitch the last few so that it looked neat. But that's the bag. Now all we need to do is attach our strap. So we're just gonna pop this in here like so. And we've already punched the holes from earlier, so I just need to attach the strap. So we might move back to where all the stuff is to do that. Bag, 2 sets of rivets and my rivet press. So I'm gonna go where the joint is, we're gonna go in and then up like that. Put the cap on and squish it down. Now, sometimes, see how I'm having the troubles? If you hang it off the end instead, the bag's got somewhere to go, much like why we just use the other machine. And so then we want to go up and over and then up and in this way, so from bottom to top, to make sure there's no twists. And then before I squish this, I'm just going to put it on and then check that there's no twists, right? Because from here I can still take it off if I've stuffed it up. But we're good. It's a cute little like shoulder length. I like it. So again, off the table so that I can get to it easier. So one day when I have my forever studio, this is going to be bolted on the edge of a table like this. You obviously can't do it now because I don't have a permanent table. But that is now the bag. We're all done. And it's adorable. That's the front, but still. With a drop-in lining, and it's got the divider pocket, which everybody loves, and a phone pocket and everything else going on. all in all, that went pretty well. I hope you guys had fun watching this. I know some of you hate the drop-in linings, but you should still give it a try because it's a good learning experience and the bag is really cute. Alright guys, I'll see you guys next time. Bye!